Hey everyone, my name is Ellen.
And my name's Alyssa. Welcome back to the Modern Singer podcast. Today we're going to talk about how to prep for a lesson or a coaching. So there's a lot of differences between a voice lesson and a coaching. So voice lessons tend to be a little bit more about technique, about making sure that you're singing healthily in a strong way. Coaching tends to be a little bit more specific. You're going into the specifics of how the piece should be performed, your diction, your storytelling. As a teacher and a coach myself, I tend to blend a little bit, but I also have students that only come to me as a coach for acting and like the little shiny polish that we put on things. I had a student who I brought my mic with me. We brought a cute little camera moment and I was coaching her through making her pre-screen recordings. So there's a lot of different things that you can do in a coaching versus a voice lesson. Prepping for them, however, are pretty similar.
So the first thing that you want to do, if this is a new teacher or a coach, or you're taking just like either it's a trial lesson or you're taking a lesson with somebody in New York when you're auditioning or at a gig and you're working with a new coach or a new teacher or whatever, make sure you do your research on them. It is very, very important that you know who you're working with and what they're good at, what their specialties are, who they are. Maybe, if they were singers in the past, what roles have they done?
Or if they're singers now.
Exactly, yeah. And singers now, singers in the past, like what roles have they done, what voice type they are, what type of coach they are, who they've coached, if they're, a big name. This will really, really help. You do not want to be caught off guard in these lessons, not knowing something. And also, it may even drive your voice lesson or your coaching.
You also don't want to spend hundreds of dollars on a teacher that you know that you're not going to vibe with.
Or spend hundreds of dollars on a teacher or a coach that specializes in an area that you don't need help on.
Or that you're not interested in doing.
Absolutely. 100%.
You haven't done it in a couple episodes.
I know. I was really good about it.
We also have a tracker on our Etsy shop that you can do. It goes through all of the questions for you to ask. It's got a place to take notes and things on our Etsy shop. It's a Google form that you can download right away and get to work. Next up, you got to prepare your materials. If you go in and you don't know what you're singing and you're trying to get coached on it, literally you're paying someone to play your notes for you, which is a huge waste of money. So whether your teacher is playing, your coach, or if you've hired a separate pianist to play for your lesson, it's important your binder is organized as well and easy to read so that your coach or teacher can really focus on what's important, which is your voice and the actual session. Start from a clean piece of sheet music, not your marked up practice score. You want to make sure that there is a clean copy in that binder so that no one else is distracted. The only thing that you should mark in that is any breaths that you know that you're going to take, or if there's a certain cut that you know you're taking. We do not recommend using plastic sleeves in your binders. The reason being is if there is a glare, then people are going to miss notes, which is no one's fault other than fluorescent lighting. But also if your teacher or your coach wants to write on it really fast, they have to take it out and then they have to do a thing and then it's a lot of extra hassle. I know in Europe, that is the go-to, is to have everything in sheet protectors. I personally hate them. To each their own, but I don't recommend personally using them. I've gotten a lot of feedback from pianists I've worked with that they hate it, so...
Yeah, I have as well, yeah.
When in doubt, ask first. Next thing you can do is label each piece with a tab. I have a tabby system. It numbers 1 through 30, and I scanned the cover page in and I just write whatever is in there that day into the cover page that I print out so that I always know where things are. I don't have to look. I actually just got complimented on it at an audition because they were like, I'm going to let you find it. And I'm like, actually, and then I flipped to the beginning and went, there is a table of contents. And he went, this is the best thing I've ever seen. And I went, thank you so much. So labeling your pieces is going to make life easier. If you don't have access to that, you can literally grab the little clear sticky notes and just write it on there. That's what I used to do. And the little clear tabby things, I'm going to look up the word for it and I'm going to put it in the show notes because I cannot remember for some reason what the tabby things are called.
That's what I used as well. They're super easy to use. It allows your coach or voice teacher or, and pianist in an audition also easily navigate to the piece. You're not wasting time. You're not wasting money in your voice lesson or your coaching. It's a really easy and great way to organize your music.
And then lastly, make sure that you have clear markings for any cuts, breaths, and tempo changes in your music. You want to make sure that you're giving whoever is playing very clear instructions. I will say also, if you're taking it into a coaching, sometimes it's best to write it in pencil so that if you and your coach decide to change your mind about something, you can fix it.
This one feels like a no-brainer, but when I was a singer, I really was shitty about practicing. So please make sure that you practice beforehand. Make sure you translate your piece and make sure you know what you're saying before you stepping into the room. I got caught off guard all the time and felt unprepared and put on the spot, which is not a fun feeling. You might look bad and you feel bad about yourself. And if you're trying to use this person as a reference or a resource or have them be your permanent teacher or coach, you definitely always want to make a good impression. So make sure you know what you're saying, or at least generally know what you're saying so that you look prepared. Know the general plot as well. Know what just happened in the piece and what is happening next. So if you're doing an aria from a show, know about your character. Who is your character? Why are they singing this aria? What just happened to them to make them sing this aria, and what is going to happen next in the piece? Are you growing and in the piece and you're gaining confidence, and then the next step is them leaving or, making a brisk exit or something like that? Is it them getting caught off guard by, someone stepping into the room? Just make sure you know what's going on in the plot. And this does apply to art song as well. A lot of art song tells story. Just make sure you know what's going on. If it's a song cycle, what the piece before was talking about, what the next piece is going to talk about. And make sure that your notes and pronunciations are the best that they possibly can be, so you can focus on either your vocal technique or, characterization. You want to make sure that you do all of the work possible beforehand, so you're not paying money for somebody to teach you the notes, to plunk them out, to, teach you how to pronounce your entire piece. Obviously, if you are having, a tricky spot or, this French word, I always go to French because it's hard for me, doesn't, vibe well in your mouth. That is what your coach or your teacher is for. Oh, raise your soft palate and, that this might spin a little bit better and the word comes out better. Or, oh, do this with your breathing or with your support and you'll be able to sing those notes. Don't fret if you have some tricky spots, but just make sure that you're as prepared on your notes and pronunciations as you possibly can be when you're going into your coaching or voice lesson.
Know what you want to work on and why you want to work on it. I know I've personally had lessons where I'm like, there are these 3 measures that I cannot for the life of me figure out. And I know that I've had other coachings where I'm like, I don't know this language very well. I had to have Russian coaching sessions one time because I didn't know how to speak Russian. Now I know how to speak some things. I still don't know what I was saying all of the time, but I knew that I was singing something about trees. Make sure that you have a clear goal in mind when you're walking in. It could be a section that's tricky, a high note that needs help, really finding that sparkle. It can be, how do I sing this healthily in the middle of my recital when this is piece number 6 in an 8-song cycle? How do I really make sure that this all ties together? Knowing what you want to work on helps give you a focus rather than just walking in with a piece of music and going, I don't know, it doesn't feel right, because then you're going to have a lot more focus and the ability to really hone in on the things that you need to work on in the session.
And make sure you're asking questions and writing them down. Most of the work that we're doing on these pieces happen outside of lessons, outside of coachings, all by yourself. Sometimes you might forget what they say. Sometimes you might not understand why they're saying that. So definitely make sure you ask questions. Why did you have me do that exercise? Why did you have me sit on a ball and sing? Why did that work? Why do you think this type of characterization is better than what I have previously, done in the past, or what I've decided, or why does lifting my soft palate or modifying this vowel make it sound like this? This is a really great way to learn and to translate what you're learning in these coachings and voice lessons into other pieces of music as well, but also solidify these things in your mind so you don't forget them when you're under the pressure of performing or, working on that piece later that week, or even sometimes you don't get to it for a month or so. You want to make sure that you are remembering what you're learning in these sessions and being able to translate them to different aspects of your singing.
That being said, if you do not understand something, say so.
Absolutely.
It is something that I always tell my students. I will speak until I am blue in the face, but if I am saying something and you don't understand it and you don't tell me, I'm not going to know. I'm not a mind reader. I've tried. It doesn't work. But if you don't understand, ask a question. You are literally paying to be there. If you don't get it, say something. So things that you should bring with you to whatever session that you have. You do want to make sure that you bring a recording device. I typically use my phone or my iPad to do a cute little voice memo that I'll label and I'll go through later, and I'll make sure that I have everything. Or sometimes it's I wanted to rehear that specific section because they said something and it sparked in the moment, but I couldn't remember it enough to write it down. So making sure that you record your sessions, always ask permission first, but 99% of the time, teachers are fine if you want to voice memo a lesson. Make sure that you bring the right method of payment. This is something that teachers don't want to run you down for. I know myself and my voice teacher, you have to pre-book and prepay, but other teachers want you to Venmo them at the end of the lesson or before the lesson. And it's super important to make sure that you are paying on time, because otherwise, if you need that reference letter that we talked about, if you need another session, they might tell you no. Next up, make sure that you bring a pencil. Do not bring a pen. Do not bring a pen. Bring a pencil. You want to be able to erase things. I do a lot of work on my iPad, so I'll have a pencil in my actual binder that my teacher can use, and then I'll have my Apple Pencil with me so that I can write on my iPad, just because I prefer not carrying around a giant binder of all of the music that I have. And lastly, make sure that you bring a water bottle. Yes, hydration is important before. Fun fact, your hydration for the whole day is how hydrated your voice is. It takes about 2 hours from the last time I researched it for the hydration that you intake to get to your vocal folds, because they are not in your body doesn't see them as like a necessity muscle. So they're the first ones that lose their hydration.
And if applicable, set up your next session. Make sure that you're prepared ahead of time. Make sure you're getting on their schedule ahead of time. A lot of teachers are either singers, or they have other gigs, or they have other students. Same with coaches. You want to make sure that you can get a slot when you need it. If you want weekly lessons, monthly lessons, and that's something that works within their schedule and yours.
Thank you so much for joining us this week. We hope that you have some new ideas for how to prep for a lesson with a new teacher or a new coach. Make sure that you rate, subscribe, and review to help us reach new followers. And if you really liked the episode, it always helps us if you share it with a friend.
And don't forget to check out our Etsy shop. We have amazing workbooks, resources, digital materials that you can use to make your life as a singer easier. Bye.
I am so low today. Oh my God, I hate these.
On point today.
Well, for this one.
Yeah, that's
for this one.
Third time's a charm. Oh shit, I just hit my mic. Back in business.
Well. We're doing so well.
On it.
We are at the peak of success.
Peak.
The pinnacle.
The pinnacle.